This is Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Hello and welcome. I'm Gametisa Mendida, your host for this hour's news. We'll bring you stories from across the continent, so stay tuned for the latest updates. President William Ruto has announced the start of interviews to select 100,000 young entrepreneurs who will receive 50,000 Kenyan shilling grants under the National Youth Opportunities Toward Advancement. President William Ruto has announced the start of interviews to select 100,000 young entrepreneurs who receive 50,000 Kenyan shilling grants under the National Youth Opportunities Towards Advancement project. The interviews have begun across all sub-counties in Kenya. The 5 billion Kenyan shilling initiative, jointly funded by the Kenyan government and the World Bank, aims to empower 70 young people from each of the county's 1,450 wards. Beneficiaries will use the grants to start or expand their businesses, fostering economic growth and youth employment. Speaking on the program, President Ruto said, "We'll begin identifying 100,000 young people because we want to use their energy, talent and expertise to transform our nation." The National Youth Opportunities Towards Advancement program builds on Kenya's ongoing efforts to boost youth entrepreneurship and reduce unemployment, providing financial and technical support to young business owners nationwide. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, has welcomed Germany's €1 billion pledge to the Global Fund, describing it as a bold act of solidarity and global leadership in strengthening Africa's health systems. Dr. Jean Kasia, Africa CDC Director General, said the funds will accelerate efforts to combat HIV, tuberculosis and malaria, support pandemic preparedness, and advance universal health coverage across the continent. This is a powerful act of solidarity and global leadership. It will help build a more resilient and equitable Africa, capable of preventing and responding to health threats, Kasia said at the ongoing World Health Summit in Berlin. He added that the funding comes at a critical time as Africa implements the new public health order, which aims to strengthen national health systems, local manufacturing and the health workforce. The Global Fund, established in 2002, has mobilized resources to fight AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria, saving more than 59 million lives worldwide. Germany's renewed commitment will support African Union member states in consolidating progress toward ending preventable death and achieving sustainable health security.
POA, the Pulse of Africa.
I would like you to follow POA, the Voice of Africa.
This is the face and the voice of Africa. We want you to watch this all the time.
The Voice of Africa. Stick with it. You will see Africa, how it will change for the better.
This is Africa, the cradle of humanity, the frontier of the future, a land of visionaries, creators and pioneers, a continent of unstoppable energy where innovation meets tradition, where voices rise, loud and fearless.
I am an African.
This is the heartbeat of a billion people, diverse, bold, united by a single purpose to tell our own stories in our own way. No borders, no barriers, no filters. A new era of African storytelling is here. From every corner of the continent, from the bustling cities to the quiet village, we tell Africa's story by Africans for the world. This is the land of a rising Africa, where Africa speaks and the world listens. This is why today we bring you POA, Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Moving to East African crude oil. East African crude oil pipeline is 70% complete and on track for commissioning by July 2026, according to Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation Board Chairman Ambassador Ombeni Sefu. The $5 billion, 1,443 kilometers pipeline has overcome earlier financing and environmental challenges with 946 kilometers of welding completed. The heated export line will carry up to 230,000 barrels of crude per day from Uganda's Lake Albert Basin to Tanzania's Tanga port, complementing Uganda's $4 billion Hoima refinery slated for 2029 to 2030. It forms part of East Africa's first integrated cross-border oil network linking upstream oil fields with regional export and refining capacity. Funding was secured with support from China Exim Bank, Standard Bank, Total Energies, China's National Offshore Oil Corporation, Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation, and Uganda National Oil Company. The project is expected to add 1.2 percentage points to Tanzania's GDP, strengthen regional energy integration, and enhance Tanzania's position as an oil export hub. East African crude oil pipeline has already generated $26.1 million in government revenue, while almost all affected households are being compensated. Total Energies has committed to a 1.5 to 1 biodiversity offset ratio and community resilience projects, including reforestation, water access and electrification schemes monitored by the African Development Bank and the East African Community Secretariat. Together with Uganda's Hoima refinery, East African crude oil pipeline will create a vertically integrated energy corridor, boosting energy security, reducing petroleum imports and supporting sustainable regional development. Valerie Traore, Executive Director of NEAL, issued a powerful call for Africans to reclaim ownership of their narratives and redefine how the continent is portrayed in global media. In an exclusive interview with Pulse of Africa, Traore emphasized that Africans must stop waiting for international outlets to redefine the narrative and instead build and strengthen their own media voices. The problem is how Africa is being portrayed in the global media because of course, it's not portrayed in the way we want to. Traore said, the global media does not belong to us. She explained that the issue lies less in deliberate misrepresentation and more in ownership and perspective. Stories are being told from the viewpoint of those who own the media. If you have American media, that's the framework they'll use. If you have French media, that's their lanes, she noted. Traore's comments come amid growing calls across the continent for stronger African media and institutions capable of telling Africa's story from within. She added that while Africa is often portrayed through a lens of crisis, conflict, poverty and instability, its narratives of innovation, resilience and progress rarely receive equal attention. Traore's message aligns with ongoing efforts by African governments and institutions, including the African Union, to strengthen continental media collaboration. Initiatives like Pulse of Africa Media aim to provide a platform for authentic African storytelling that reflects the continent's realities, challenges and aspirations. Moving to business news, a high-level Ethiopian delegation led by Finance Minister Ahmed Shide has arrived in Washington, D.C. to participate in the 2025 annual meetings of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, which has already begun. The delegation, which also includes National Bank of Ethiopia Governor Dr. Eyob Tekaling, will also engage in discussions with senior officials from the World Bank, IMF, and other multilateral and bilateral partners. The meetings aim to review Ethiopia's ongoing economic reforms, debt restructuring progress, and efforts to attract investment for sustainable development. Upon arrival on October 12, the delegation met with Ethiopia's ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Binalf Andualam, and embassy diplomats to discuss key priorities and coordination of bilateral engagements during the week. The World Bank and IMF annual meetings bring together finance ministers, central bank governors, and policy makers from around the world to deliberate on global economic trends, development, financing, and fiscal stability. For Ethiopia, the sessions come at a critical time as the country advances its homegrown economic reform agenda focused on stabilizing inflation, improving fiscal discipline, and fostering private sector-led growth. South Africa set to meet fiscal targets, says Treasury. South Africa is on course to achieve its key fiscal goals this year, including stabilizing public debt and expanding its primary budget surplus, according to National Treasury Director General Duncan Petres. We are in a period of fairly healthy budget dynamics, Petres said, adding that both the primary balance and debt to GDP targets are expected to be met. The country's debt to GDP ratio surged from 26% in 2009 to 77% in 2025, but is now projected to stabilize and begin declining. The Treasury aims to grow the primary surplus where revenue exceeds non-interest spending to reduce debt and redirect funds towards essential services and infrastructure investment. Petres also noted that tighter controls on social grants, which cover nearly 1 in 3 citizens, have helped manage spending. Finance Minister Eno Godongwana is set to deliver the mid-year fiscal review on November 12, outlining updated revenue and spending plans for the current and next 3 fiscal years. That's it from POA English News. Thank you for watching and goodbye.